And that moment, that date, changed my life completely.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of We Are Not Alone, streaming here on Queen City News Plus. I'm your host, May K. Beeler, Chief Transportation Correspondent here at Queen City News, also a longtime pilot, as many of you know. Oftentimes people ask me, have I had any encounters, anything unusual or of high strangeness? Not that I know of, but our guest today most certainly has. And I guess it's kind of related to E.T. Phone Home. But it isn't E.T. phoning home, it's E.T. phoning Christina, our guest today. And I don't even know if it's E.T. Perhaps it's an interdimensional entity that is phoning into Christina Engelhardt. So, Christina, I know you have an interesting story to tell, and we welcome you from L.A. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Christina, I'm going to brag about you just a little bit because you have a beautiful career. Very well known in the entertainment industry, film, TV, stage actress, international model. We can see that you're still beautiful. Producer, screenwriter, author, producer, a star of the award-winning documentary Towards the Moon with Fellini. You come from a 10-generation lineage of psychic mediums.
Yes.
What's that like?
Well, my grandmother, she's the first female, learned from her grandmother and then the grandmother before. So the first granddaughter on my mother's side gets entrusted with the gift. So by the age of 6, I saw my grandmother doing readings and in Germany. So I speak several languages. So of course I bothered her until she said, okay, here's your lesson, da, 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 da. And within a moment, it just came to me. And from that moment on, I studied everything possible from astrology, numerology, tarot, both Eastern and Western sidereal astrology, and ruins, the I Ching. It's just, I had such a fascination for it. My library at the time were esoteric books whenever the people were playing with Barbies. So that's how I started.
So because you have this gift, it was inherited from your family, and you have this paranormal gift. Do you think that opens you up to encounters or experiences? And I know you're going to tell us about this voice that had come to you for many, many years. And I talked about E.T. Phone Home because you're going to tell us that the voice comes to you over a phone. Can you tell us about that?
Well, just to add to what you started saying is, I always thought that the reason I was being communicated with or had these phenomenal psychic impressions, because I was doing readings already at the age of 10 for neighbors, and people would literally come to our house, not to see my parents, but to see me. So every time I would have this inner feeling of like, I don't even know why I'm saying it, but these messages are coming across, that I realized that, oh, so when I started getting the calls and the interdimensional beings, I thought all along I was probably chosen because I was the most receptive to it. I didn't fear it. I listened to it. I thought right away, what is the message? Now, I will say that in the phone calls that I had, it was a mechanical, esoteric, synthetic voice. Now, this is in the 80s, early 80s. It did not sound humanist at all. Back then, there was barely the birth of cell phones. And actually, there were no cell phones. I think it was like in a car, the big, shoebox phone.
Yeah.
And the minute I would take their call, it sounded like it was coming through a walkie-talkie. So you have that, and then through that, this voice. Now, the minute I heard the voice, I start shaking, I start sweating. I feel like something is being connected in a way I've never felt this before. And they would start telling me, and I say they, even though it was a singular voice, and they called themselves you, they said we. And then later on, when they explained themselves, they said that they are an interdimensional being. And if, in order to make these calls, it would take many of them to come together to make an energy connection. And therefore, using me as their anchor is why I was able to receive this. And this didn't just happen to me. It happened to a small group of people that were surrounding the famous Federico Fellini, director, Italian giant of Maestro del Cinema. So we all participated, and Andrea De Carlo wrote a book, Yucatan. Of course, I wrote, and Fellini wrote. So we all documented in our live stories what the heck was going on afterwards, of course.
Christina, how did this first start? Are you sitting in the living room watching TV and the phone rings? Hello.
Well,
I mean, how did this happen?
So I'll do a quick little intro. So,
Okay.
I already am doing readings, and I'm now about in my early 20s, and my psychic teacher, who taught me astrology and I taught her tarot, at least what I learned. And one day she said, get out in New York. You have to be in Los Angeles on October 20th. You're going to meet a famous Italian director, and you're going to hear voices from outer space. Go. And
Wow.
she had never been wrong. And I mean, she talked to me in such a, like, chased me out. I was like almost offended, but I did as she said. And this is now 2 months before October 20th, 1984. And lo and behold, I do as she said. And on that date, the phone rings and someone, a lady says, you don't like me and I don't like you, but I have to go to a dinner with an Italian director. And I said, I'll be there. And she had no idea about this adventure. And that evening I met Fellini. And after the dinner, I invite everyone back to see a slideshow. I'm an avid photographer. And in the photo shoots, or projected on the wall, that's what I used to do. I love to do a slideshow with music. And I show pictures of Tulum, Chichen Itza, Uxmal. And Federico gets very agitated. He said, do you know? Did they call you? And I had no idea what Federico Fellini was saying while he's sitting on my sofa. And then, thank you very much. And he leaves. Then that night I was like, oh my God, I left New York. I left everything. I'm in LA for a dinner and a slideshow. I said, this can't be. So I stayed up all night writing little notes, using all my esoterics, the I Ching, the cards, like, why did I have to be here? What did this mean? And then first thing in the morning, like 6:30, I stayed up all night. I was like, where am I going to find him? In which hotel? So I thought, okay, I'm going to call each hotel. And of course, celebrities do not leave their real name at hotels. The first hotel I called, yes, there's a Federico Fellini staying there. I'm like, great. So I drove over to the Hilton and I stood at the concierge holding my little package of notes that I had. And there was a line of people. And that person, I was kind of looking down, and the person in front of me turned around, grabbed me by the shoulders and is shaking me and saying, Christina. And it was Federico. He said, the voices told me to be down here exactly at this time, and the chosen one would be there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, come upstairs. And there's his entourage. And he then starts telling me about the voices that he's been receiving. And while he's explaining this, the phone rings. He answers. He gets very wobbly. He's kind of repeating himself, and he hangs up and he says, yes, they have confirmed you are coming with us. You are the one. And that moment, that date, changed my life completely. And then I went on an adventure with Federico for 10 years till his final time on this level, this earth. But during that time, we had uncovered an interdimensional being that wanted him to tell their story. They somehow picked him as a director of all things. They thought that he would be able to. And I always thought that I was chosen for this because I was the most receptive. I was fearful, and they were psychically out of control. They taught me that they were outside of time. They made energies, opportunities. Besides making things move, reappear, disappear, they would tell me 2 weeks in advance to be somewhere and something would happen. It exactly did. And this went on not one time, two times, went on for almost 10 years.
Christina, stop right there because there's so much more I want to hear. We're going to take a quick break. And Christina, we'll be back right after this. Stay right there. Welcome, everyone. We're back. We are not alone with Christina Engelhardt, and what a story she has to tell. Christina.
Yes.
Voices. It sounds like you're crazy.
Yes.
Did you and your entourage, did you think you were crazy? How did you process it?
Well, it truly was a level of fear and a level of excitement. I thought that it was a privilege. They had given me countless messages about the world, about what they were trying to accomplish. They were very much involved with sound and colors, and often they would appear in orbs in colors. And they also had a way of freezing my body where I would be in laying down or sitting in a chair and I couldn't see. I had my eyes closed and I couldn't open and I felt them touching me. That was very intense. I
That would
did
be
not like that, but
that's I was going to say that would be creepy.
that was very creepy.
Mm,
And that happened more than once. And I think they wanted to show me that they can have a physical
mm.
contact even in an interdimensional aspect of themselves. They told me they were never born. They haven't died. They are an energy form, and that there are many energy forms. That the whole world and the universe is filled with this, and vibrations, sound, and colors are a very natural way for them to project. They also had allowed me to see them in their most physical form. Again, they used telepathy because they could also, in this particular, they stood around me, looking down at me, the big eyes, the shape shifting face.
Were they
Colors.
grays or did they look like
Well,
grays? What did they look like?
you would think they were grays because they had the big eyes and next to no nose and mouth, but
Mm.
they looked like if you looked at an oil spill, it's pink and green and blue. They were shape shifting in colors, terrifying. But as they surrounded me, looking down at me, um, they were just letting me know that their presence and that I did not have to hear them or speak to them, that they could get through my mind. And here's something I'll mention regarding the phone call. So I literally had to go in hiding. I thought, this is crazy, because wherever I went, the phone would ring. It was them. It was like they had
Oh my God.
a GPS tag on me.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm in Rome and I kept switching hotels, switching rooms. So I thought, okay, I'll be fine in this one. I took an old hotel in Rome near Piazza Navona because it had an old switchboard. So I finally chose the room, and within a few minutes, you calls,
Oh my God.
gives me instructions, what they want me to do that day, who they want me to contact. And after I hung up, I called the switchboard downstairs and I said to the operator, the call that I just got, was it from within the hotel or outside the hotel? And she said, I never connected your room to any.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that phone rang and I picked it. So this is what I went, and truly that I didn't lose my mind. Um,
Christina, did you ever just not want to answer the phone? Like stop or
Isn't
unplug
that
it?
interesting? Now that we have cell phones, I don't hear from them anymore. The 5G, the 3G and all that. It's almost as if they came, they did what they had to do. They implanted
Interesting.
energetically or a message or a mission. Now, obviously, after it was all said and done, I, you know, I didn't want to say I could forget about this, but I wanted to get on with my life. And it took me, over 20 years to write the book because I just didn't want to talk about the experience because that makes me sound crazy. But as the world was starting to get information, how other people were seeing things, and also when I read Whitley Schreiber's book, Communion, the dates that he received contact were the same dates that I was receiving contact.
Wow.
And yes, they looked gray, but sometimes gray has a silver effect, and silver can reflect colors. So they had more of that. The eyes were the same, that's for sure. And I really felt, and I've always wanted to reach out to Whitney and saying how unique that the dates were the same, and those eyes and the certain things that they were able to reach out to me. And this did not just affect me, it affected Federico and the little entourage that were part of this. So I'm not like the only one who received this.
Are you still in contact with the entourage today?
No, somehow they used me as the center force, the nurturing. So if I may say, the names and the colors. They were so Federico Fellini was the green one. Andrea De Carlo, who wrote this book, great author, filmmaker, genius writer, he was the blue one, and of course his cover is blue. Then we had Maurizio Grimaldi, who was the orange one, who is the producer's son, Alberto Grimaldi, well known in Italy. And then there was myself given the pink one. And then we had a few other people who were on the outskirts. We had Tullio Pinelli, Violet. We had another person come into the group who received a call, another Violet, a female, Brink Stevens.
And you're not in touch with them today?
No, I'm in touch with all. Well, Federico passed. Andrea is in Italy.
Okay.
I'm in touch, but here's the thing, they all thought it was so crazy, and they did not receive the calls like I did. So they were still on the spectrum of spectacle and superstitious and apprehensive, but they were definitely in the group. They were on board in that regard. So they know this was happening. And that's why I think the voices chose the most receptive.
Christina, we need to know the messages, what messages they had for you that you can share with us. And I want you to talk about your book for a minute. I want to ask something. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Were any drugs involved?
No, actually, it was a funny thing. They told me to do no drugs and to be very careful about eating animal. They didn't like that vibration. So that was something that they were they were highly conscious. I would say they were multidimensional conscious beings, because that is, when you think of consciousness, it's your inner voice. And if you are very attuned to it, it will speak to your own inner voice, if you want to call it your soul, your consciousness. That is a very active, and that does survive without the body, as we are a conscious being in a physical body. And I think when they were showing me unusual physical things could reappear or disappear or move, that was them showing that energy can move things, as we know, and the unseen world, like macro and micro scopes, you can see within the smallest item or even within the largest. There's, for example, the atomic structure. We cannot see atoms, but we split one, we have destruction. And they were very important. They said music and sound was one of the ways to reach our consciousness. So that was very important, that sound, music in particular. And of course, what is music but wavelengths? So, some music can make you upset and nervous or frustrated or dance or sing, and some can be chanting and meditative. So I do believe the frequency of music, they were all about that. Anything interdimensional frequencies, sound waves, light waves, was very important for them.
So, Christina, we got to know, what were the messages?
Oh my God, that's why you have to read the book. There were so many. It wasn't one or two. It was 10 years.
Come on, you got to tell us a few of the best, and then tell us how we can get your book.
So here's an example. The voices would call me and they said, we told the green one not to go. And they hung up. And so then I called Federico, the green one, and there was no ring. I just dialed, and then I hear this heavy voices breathing, and it's Federico. And I said, Federico, the voices just told me, you just told me not to go. And he starts crying. He said, I just fell down the stairs. I just picked up the phone to call the hospital or, an ambulance. And there's me on the phone saying, we told you so. So stuff like that. Then again, with the hotel, them not being there, then they had one time called me, and they said, they gave me a date, and it was 2 weeks in advance. And they said, we want you to be in front of Cafe Greco, which was a cafe, at midnight. That's all they said. Be at midnight, Cafe Greco, on this date. Well, that was 2 weeks in advance. Cafe Greco, I'm thinking, where's the only Cafe Greco I know is in Rome. I guess I have to go to Rome and be there at midnight. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to tell anyone, so no one's following me. I had to be sure about that. But I'm talking to myself that moment after the call, I said, well, if you want me to go, I need the money. And where am I going to keep getting these monies to fly? I was flying 7, 8 times back and forth to Rome
Wow. Oh my
before I
goodness.
moved
That's
there.
expensive. Yeah.
Right. So as soon as I yelled up at the ceiling, where am I going to get this money? My doorbell rings. And I'm thinking, well, that's strange because you have to get through a security gate before you can actually ring my doorbell. And I look through the peephole, there's no one. I open the door and there's a shoebox at the foot of my door with $1,500 in cash. I don't know. So then I thought there's somebody behind this because
I need them to call me.
exactly.
Can you give them my number, please?
So that gave me to go on the trip. And so I go, it's midnight. I'm standing and now, of course, Rome at midnight, all the shops close, they have the windows, doors, they have these lattice that they close. It looked like a ghost town. So I'm standing there, in a black coat. I'm thinking, oh my God, what kind of look does this give me? So I'm kind of hiding in the crevice of a building because I don't know. I thought they were going to take me in a spaceship. I had no idea what to think. And then off at a distance, exactly midnight, I see someone turn the corner like 4 blocks up and start moving slowly towards me with their hands in their pocket and their head down. And I look. And as they get closer, I realize it's the blue one. So I'm thinking, oh, they told the blue one to meet me because he was the writer of the story. So when it get closer, I wave to him and I go, Andrea. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, voices called me to tell me to wait at midnight, to wait for a message, and it has to be you. And he said, Christina, I'm walking up and down the street. I just forgot where I parked my car. I stayed late. I was going to drive at midnight.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Crazy stuff like that. And
oh, goodness. Christina,
so
we are
once again, also their message of they were never born or they're not in the level of the physicality. They are pure energy. So they come from the energy. And so if you want to say all sources energy, that's where they, are emanating from. And at one point, I always did the listening. There was so much energy to just be that connection on the phone. And one time they said, I could ask a question. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't know what to ask for. My brain was thinking, I said, is there reincarnation? And they said, absolutely. Humans reincarnate. It's all energy. Wow. No, so that was a big yes. And of course, they said that I had reincarnated hundreds of times. And in fact, I'm one of them. Wow. So now, from my understanding, and that was probably one of the reasons why it took me so long to write the book, because I had to think, well, if I'm going to make such a statement, I am one of them. What does that mean? Was I? It's not. I don't even know. I believe all humans actually were downloaded from aliens, so that makes sense to me. But what did that mean? So I had to really go into a personal search to understand that. And I think it's that since we all come from a consciousness, I think since we all come from energy, that somehow I was in their group of energy.
Like a soul group? Like you guys were a soul family? Soul family?
Yes. That's a perfect way to soul family.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because people think, well, because when I've said this, they go, well, are you saying you're a gray and incarnated and are you a mixed breed? I'm like, I don't know about any of that. If anything, I feel more Pleiadian because I want to come from a peaceful, energetic.
And you kind of look like that too. I mean, you're beautiful. I mean, right? Everybody can see.
Well, the thing is, it's that, and my last name is Angelheart. So Christina Engelhart is Christ in an angel heart. Coincidentally, that was by nature. So I have that, and I have great love for faith, religion, theology. At the end of the day, all our different interpretations of a God is all really that consciousness source, because we're actually all on the inside, we all look the same. On the outside, we have different shapes and sizes, but if you looked at each one of our hearts, you could not tell one person from the other.
I love that.
I always felt that. And and I felt the vibration. And then while I was in Italy, watching Federico put together the graphic novel and his last film, The Voice of the Moon, he never really wanted, the closest to the real story is the graphic novel. The Federico's last film, The Voice of the Moon, La Voce della Luna, it was his attempt to use comedians to play crazy to tell this story. And I had, at the time, and my husband, I actually married Federico's first assistant, Eugenio Capuccio, brilliant, talented director. We approached Federico, can we follow him with the camera behind the scenes of The Voice of the Moon, which we created Towards the Moon with Fellini. And that is why my book is called Towards the Moon with Fellini. Originally Fellini in Hollywood, but Towards the Moon because we have the documentary, which can be seen on YouTube. So anyone just go on YouTube, Google Towards the Moon with Fellini, and watch me at that time tell the story of the behind the scenes with Federico Fellini of his movie, The Voice of the Moon.
Well, we are going to wrap it up right there. Christina Engelhardt, I love that angel heart. What a fascinating story, and what a beautiful heart you have.
Thank you. And the book can be found on Amazon.
Okay, the book is on Amazon. Thank you for sharing your story. It's out there for sure, but you weren't afraid, and it felt good. The energies felt good to you, and we're going to end on a good note there. And to all of you out there who were listening, just another edition of We're Not Alone, and we'll see you next time right here on Queen City News Plus. I'm May K. Beeler. Thanks for joining us.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.